Welcome to Baxter Yoga. Today I'm going to share a short anatomy session with you looking at the joints of the body. So just giving you a little bit of an overview today of what joints are and how they're involved in our daily activities. So we're going to be mostly interested in joints that are called synovial joints. This is where movable bones come close together and form a connection. Right? Now, there's a couple things to know. There's one, we're looking at the shoulder joint right here. So the end of the top of the arm bone will have a thin coating of cartilage, which is both durable and yet springy and smooth. And the inside of the shoulder joint area that it comes in contact with will also have a little bit of that. So when the two bones come close together, they can slide more easily over one another to allow for movement to take place. Secondly, there'll be a joint capsule. And if you look on this side, you see a bunch of structures pictured here. This is a kind of continuous sleeve, almost like a sock that gets pulled around the joint and kind of seals the two bones together. And inside that, there's actually a lining called synovial membrane, and that membrane secretes some fluid into the joint space, almost like a little bit of engine oil in your engine, that it acts as a lubricant that allows the bones, again, to move smoothly past one another. This is also the way that nutrition gets in and out of the joint via that synovial membrane. Sugar molecules and such will diffuse into the joint and get distributed around the surfaces, delivering some food to everything that needs food, and then waste products from working in the joint will get moved out through that same membrane. So we've got the bones coming together, we've got cartilage at the ends of the bones where they meet, we've got a joint capsule that surrounds the joint that kind of seals it in and keeps the bones close together so they don't dislocate. And then we have reinforcement around that area in the form of ligaments. Ligaments attach bones to bones, and they usually reinforce and stabilize the joint so that some passive movement is allowed if no muscles were there, and yet it also tends to limit the amount of movement in any particular direction. All right? And then, of course, you'll have muscles kind of spanning the joint, and the joint is the place where movement takes place. So when a muscle contracts and moves a bone in one direction, that movement takes place right at that pivot point of the joint. Opposite muscles on the other side would bring the arm back to where it was when it began, if we're using our shoulder joint as our example of movement. So joints are involved in movement. They do provide us with a certain amount of stability and also mobility. They come in very different shapes and sizes that we're not going to really get into today, but you just know that there are lots of different ways that the bones come together and how they're shaped and how they connect. And I think probably for today that's a good introduction to what joints are, what components make up the joint, and a little bit about how they work and how they function. One additional thing I want to mention about joints is, of course, that our yoga practice allows us to move our joints through their full range of motion, up and down, forward and back, in and out. Whatever that particular joint allows, we can actually create those movements with our yoga practice. And that's really good for our overall health because not only does it help us to maintain that range of motion so we can use it when we need it, but it also helps to distribute that fluid around the joint, which helps to provide nutrition and remove waste effectively, and generally keeps the tissues inside the joint relatively healthy. Now, of course, there's always exceptions, and those usually include like repetitive actions that you do over and over again. But we're talking about a well-balanced yoga practice that varies what we're doing from practice to practice and day to day that will generally keep our joints really nice and healthy. So that's how yoga fits into the health of your joints. So that's it for our anatomy lesson for today. Please follow me on baxterbell.com as well as the blog Yoga for Healthy Aging. And know that you can find yoga practices, actual asana practices, on the Yoga U channel, the practice channel at yogauonline.com. And that's U with a capital U. Until the next time, take care and namaste.